Only the best of the best have made it this far in the Great Debaters Contest. I am your host, Mariam Bishar, and I am speaking to Fiona, a very lovely young lady from Kenya High School, and she tells us what her school brings to the table.
I would like to say that the team before you is a great team, and we believe that they're going to do well. We have seen other schools being outstanding on stage, but we promise to set the standards.
Here is Austin Nyumbok seated alongside the young gentleman from Makueni Boys High School, and he has something to say.
Here I am Yusuf Amira from Makueni Boys. If you wish, MB City. The boys you see before you are gentlemen who are well determined to win. Actually, we are wishing them all the best. Thank you.
Very well.
Thank you to both the lady and the gentleman for the lovely introduction. And today we're tackling a topic that we've talked about time and time again, yet we never seem to settle: whether developing countries should put restrictions on rural-urban migration.
The motion this week is: developing countries should put restrictions on rural to urban migration. Proposing the motion, Kenya High School. Opposing the motion, Makueni Boys High School. Each contestant has 3 minutes to make their submissions. The audience also gets a chance to put their questions to each team. Each side will have an additional 1 minute to make a final statement. The judge's decision is final. The winning school will get an ICT chill-out zone with the widescreen TV, computers, webcams, and internet connection. The teacher from the winning school gets 100,000 shillings courtesy of Chase Bank. The winning students each get a tablet courtesy of Safaricom, a gift hamper from Unilever, and a gift hamper from mimi.co.ke. And together, they all win the title, The Great Debaters. May the best school win.
The first proposer, you have the stage.
Good day, everyone. I am Evelyn Kehara from the Kenya High School, and I stand here to propound that developing countries should put restrictions on rural to urban migration. Now, the proposal believes that we should introduce control measures that will actually work on settlement and permanent movement from the rural areas to the urban areas, in actually countries whereby they have a low industrial base and they depend on foreign aid or grants for their development. We also suggest that we should come up with a body that will actually control migration of people based on reason for migration and economic and demographic contribution to the newly inhabited areas. Now, this brings me to my first point. Unlimited population actually affects the development of the urban areas. Take Nigeria, for example. In Nigeria, it is actually based as one of the most underdeveloped regions in the world. However, Nigeria experiences over-urbanization in terms of numbers. People are literally moving in the name of urbanization, but no development actually takes place. Ladies and gentlemen, this is simply preposterous, irony at its best. What is the use of moving from an area that you will not, and actually moving to an urban area whereby you do not contribute at any point? Africans, I actually believe that we should not practice the mediocre of putting the cart before the horse. We shoot and then aim instead of aiming then shooting. My second point. Overpopulation will actually lead to development of slums. When a person moves from a rural area to an urban area, they haven't really considered whether they will be accommodated. It is rather unfortunate that an urban area cannot accommodate all the people that actually move to these areas. This leads to development of slums in the respective urban areas. Statistics show that 33% of the people that live in urban areas actually live in slums. It is rather unfortunate that 61.7% of that population is in sub-Saharan Africa. Just to take you back to what is going on in Nigeria. My other point, Once we have overpopulation, there is unemployment because not all the jobs available can be enough to accommodate the people that move to the urban areas in search of employment. What does unemployment lead to? An adage that goes, an idle mind is the devil's workshop. Once we have unemployment, this leads to social evils, such as prostitution, such as crime, theft, and so on and so forth. Statistics also show that Johannesburg has the highest crime rate in the world. So tell me, what is the use of bringing someone from a rural area to an urban area just to actually erode our moral standards and bring insecurity and crime? Thank you.
First opposer, you have 3 minutes.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dennis Gitonga, Makueni Boys High School, here to oppose the motion that states developing countries should restrict rural-urban migration. First, to begin with, definition of terms. To define developing countries, a developing country is a nation with lower living standards and developed industrial areas and a low human development index. That is the relationship between economic income, expenditure, and life expectancy. Rural-urban migration, the movement of people from the rural areas to the urban areas, rural to urban areas, in search of various opportunities, mainly being a job. And it can be temporary or permanent. Now, to restrict is to put in measures or to control the amount of something. First and foremost, in urban areas, we have the location of many of our recreational facilities, educational facilities, health facilities, and also research facilities. For example, educational facilities, our opponents here, they come from the urban area. Many of the schools in for the audience today, they come from the urban areas. We ourselves, right now, we are meeting in an urban area, which is an institution of learning. We have other areas, for example, the stadiums, for example, the theater halls, whereby people move from the rural areas to come and enjoy these facilities. When people move from one place to another, they move and meet in a specific place. So this will come up, and many people of different tribes, different races, different backgrounds will come together, and they'll learn to appreciate each other. They'll learn to take each other just the way they are. If someone comes from the western side, someone comes from the eastern side, someone comes from the northern and southern side to meet at an urban area, somewhere in Kenya, somewhere in the world, they'll share experiences, they'll share their own views and opinions, which will make our lives better. Therefore, rural-urban migration should not be restricted. Developing countries, they are more based on the subsistence sector. We are focusing so much on producing for ourselves. Agriculture that produces for ourselves, the subsistence sector. But for the developed countries, they are more of manufacturing. So this, when we focus mainly on the subsistence sector, we forget that there's a manufacturing sector which helps us fare better in the world trade. So if we focus on the manufacturing sector in towns, we can be able to curb the subsistence sector by the labor moving to towns. And thus I propose the motion. I propose this motion and say that developing countries should not restrict rural-urban migration. Thank you.
We'll now get cross-examinations from the proposers. You have 3 minutes.
Greetings, everyone. I go by the name Stephanie Washira from the Kenya High School, and I stand here this day to prefer the motion that states that developing nations should put restrictions on rural-urban migration. But before I do that, I would like to disagree with what the first opposer has said. He has defined terms that I believe that our first proposer had already defined. Eve had talked about it being temporary migration. And when he talks about us students being in an urban area, we are here temporarily. So, kindly keep note of what we say. That brings me to my first point. Unlimited rural-urban migration will end up putting considerable strain on the social amenities. This is because the more the people move to the urban areas, the social amenities, mind you, are not increasing. They will affect directly the way that these social amenities will run. What exactly do I mean? The population in urban areas is rising with each dawning day, but the number of social amenities, sadly, it remains constant. This will put pressure on these social amenities. This is because these amenities have to cater for the rising number of people. Allow me to use the examples of hospitals in urban areas that are experiencing this phenomenon of high rural to urban migration. Such hospitals will be flooded with patients every day. Flooded, why? Because these hospitals are there to cater for the needs of the larger percentage of the population which cannot afford to go to private hospitals to get personalized attention. Therefore, these doctors and nurses who are in these hospitals have to avail themselves early at work and have to sacrifice their time in order to be able to attend to all the patients. This is not only mentally draining, but also tiresome, considering the fact that they are humans. Aside from it being only in the health sector, we'll also highlight in the educational sector where we have more students than the number of teachers in schools. Thereby, this creates an imbalance in the student-teacher ratio. Swiftly moving on, drainage will also be a problem because we put a strain on the drainage and disposal systems, therefore contribution to pollution. Thinking along the same line, when people move from rural areas to urban areas, there's need to create provision for more transport means to cater for the needs of all these people. This will, of course, come about by increasing the number of cars on the road. But unfortunately, not everyone can afford to buy a new car. Thereby, there are those who will afford to buy second-hand cars. Now, the problem with some of these second-hand cars is the fact that some of them are not well serviced at the time of their second purchase. Therefore, when they come on the road, there is only one thing they will do: increase the amount of exhaust fumes in the air. This, coupled with the fact that you have industries which will also pollute the air, is dangerous. And I will give you an example of Mumbai as I conclude. Mumbai is a city in India that can attribute its growth to rural-urban migration, but at what cost? It is said that breathing in Mumbai for 24 hours is the equivalent of smoking a whole packet of cigarettes a day. Think about it. Think.
Second opposer, you may give your rebuttal. You also have 3 minutes.
Ladies and gentlemen, Tokyo is the most developed city in the world. It is found in Japan, which is also a developed country. And it has the highest population. That rules out the fact, the more the people, the less the development. I'm Kennedy Kyoko. I'm representing Makueni Boys High School. I'm going first to what the first presenter, the first person on stage said, that there is an effect on development. And then I have a question. Why do we say development is not being observed? Because the social amenities are not increasing. Do we blame these on people who are coming from the rural areas? No, these people can't come from the rural areas carrying hospitals on their backs. But when they come here, they are governors, they are senators. And why do we elect a government? When you go to the ballot, you elect a government so that it can make decisions in the best interest of the citizens. And the best interest is providing amenities where we go, not telling us to go where the facilities are. She also talked about slums. Slums are really there. I don't disagree. They are there. But think of the real estate. The government is even making an effort to build economical houses for these people. And slums are not here because people come from the rural areas. Do you want to tell me that those people are in town, there is no birth rate? There is the birth rate. They also give birth to their own people from the very own town. Those who come from the rural, they just supplement, not complementing. She also talked about unemployment. Well, she went ahead to say that when you come here, the population increases and employments go low. And my question is, it is estimated that this year's budget, Nairobi is going to get 11.9 billion shillings. Then I'm asking you, when you're going to climb a mountain, do you claim to reach the middle? You definitely claim to reach the peak. That's why the cat had to break the mirror, because it wanted what's beyond there. So, if a street person comes up with a mega business idea, mega communication company that can give Safaricom a run for their money in this industry, do we call them unemployed CEOs? Unemployed chief of staff in a company? I don't think so. Unemployment only comes up in the case that the government is not churning out enough employment facilities for the people that it's churning out from its learning institutions. And just to support what my friends said, creativity is enhanced when people come together. You become innovative, you become inventive. Remember, the minds are just like parachutes. When you open a parachute, it functions the same way the mind. You come to the urban areas, you face challenges, it's opened up. You think straight and change the nation. Thank you all.
I'm Dan Wafula from the Grady High School. I'd just like to ask the proposers, how does buying of second-hand cars in urban areas got to do with the banning of the rural-urban migration?
I'm Dennis Manro from Machako School. I'll wish to ask a question to their proposers. Now, if you are making use of Africa as a point of reference, and I'm this African living in this country that is poverty-stricken, mostly in the rural areas, are you telling me that I'm not supposed to go to the urban centers and look for a better, lifestyle and up my game, and also go back to the rural areas and help people also upgrade their lifestyles? Please explain on that.
May we have 2 questions for the opposers now?
I'm Jane Modoni from Kahuhia Girls. This question goes to the opposers. You argued that the rural areas don't have adequate facilities, but don't you think of if we put these restrictions in place and enhance social amenities in the rural areas, we wouldn't need people to move urban areas to urban areas?
My name is Stephen Kingsley from Fafa Jericho, and my question goes to the opposers. You're going to Makueni in the next few hours, and don't you think you'll be stuck in traffic for so long? So that is one example of us stretching our resources. So don't you think if we concentrated in the rural areas, we developed our rural areas and put that restriction, don't you think we would have saved ourselves the risk of rural-urban migration? Thank you.
The third proposer, take the stage.
Good day to you all. My name is Esperanza Nasimiyu Kapanga from the Kenya High School, and I'm here to propose the motion, definitely, and to defend my teammates, as we are saying that we should put restrictions as developing countries on rural-urban migrations. Now, I'd like to ask the question about the second-hand cars. This is what my teammates said. If we're having people migrate into the urban areas, it means we will have a higher demand for transport, means of transport, sorry. Therefore, that means we will have an increase in number of the vehicles on the road. Some people might want to own their own cars, but not all of them will afford to buy the first-hand cars, which means they'll buy second-hand cars. Well, some of these second-hand cars are not well kept, they're not well maintained, which means that when they're used on the roads, they will increase to the rate of pollution in our country. That's what she said. Then the second question was, if you want to come to the urban areas so that you can access good facilities, then I think even the question has been answered by the young man who asked a question to the opposers. We would like to develop the rural areas. That is also a control measure to stop people from moving into the urban areas. Because if you develop those areas, then why exactly would you want to come and live in an urban area when your rural area can provide the exact same amenities that you're coming to look for in the urban areas? Think about that. I would like to ask our opposers. They did say that we need to develop the agricultural sector. We need to develop the agricultural sector in our country. The reason why we want to retain people in the agricultural, they did say when we restrict people in the rural areas, we are going to force the growth of agricultural sector, yet we need industries to grow for the manufacture of goods. Do you realize that Kenya at some point had a decline in coffee exportation? This was because Kenya was not able to process the coffee itself. Then what happens? We export coffee, then it is processed outside Kenya, then it is re-exported at a more expensive price. What we are saying is retain the people in the rural areas where agriculture takes place, develop the industries there, process these goods, and let's gain much more other than exporting and then getting the same goods from our own land at a higher price. Then, one of the opposers also said that Japan is developed and it has a high population. I'd like to explain to him that Japan is already developed. The people whose number is increasing in Tokyo, for example, is because they can already sustain themselves. Therefore, we don't see the negative effects of them being in the urban areas. But we are speaking about developing areas. As Eve had mentioned earlier, in Nigeria, people are migrating to urban areas, but it's not in response to industrialization. What does that mean? They arrive there, they get stranded, they don't have jobs. What is the end result? A high population, which we cannot even sustain in those urban areas. Then again, you said that the people who go to the urban areas are looking for social amenities. We're in developing countries. We can't just wake up one day and give all the social amenities that are required instantly. That is why we need to control the rural-urban migration in developing countries. Thank you.
We'll now have the third opposer respond to the audience.
Hello everybody, my name is Joel Moore from Makueni Boys High School. And I'd like to first and foremost acknowledge the presence of the best debater in 2013, Esperanza in the house. But then I want to remind you all that this is a new year. New resolutions, new themes. Now, I'd like to take the first question about revenue allocation. Then let me ask you, Samburu County has a population of 470,000 people. If given this 11.9 billion, and instead the 2.5 billion that they're supposed to be given is given to Nairobi, who is at loss? Who is losing here? Nairobi County obviously is losing. We are saying that urbanization, yes, it is there. Many people should come to these towns to make use of these resources that the government is providing. When you look at the budget and all that Nairobi County intends to undertake, it's about rectification of existing structures. Yet these are the structures that we don't have in our developing counties. Then the question about transport, you call them traffic jams. That's congestion. Let me remind you something. This money that is being given, it is being given to serve purposes such as those jams. We want to improve our roads because to cater for the many people who are moving into these towns. Then, lastly, my friend who asked about the developing countries, I want to remind you one thing, that it is these difficulties that we face that really mold who we are. It is the hardities of life that really make us the people that we really want to be. And then to support my fellow mates, let me tell you that we should follow what the natural trend of the other countries have done. In other nations, they have rise the same way we have. Urbanization is brought about by skill. Then this skill, if it is untapped and stays in these rural areas, where are we specifically headed? Where are we really going? We really need these people to come from those places so as to tap the potential within them, so as to tap the skill that they have. They come in towns to study. Yes, we want them there so that they can improve our country and make it a better one. Developing countries have many challenges to solve. And I want to think that the list of the challenges would be to think of where people are to stay. We are fighting epidemics. We are fighting very many things. But the list of the issues will be where specifically people are going to stay. Hence, I want to really oppose this motion about restriction. And then to also support on Freedom of movement is an intrinsic human right. If you deny people their right, what are you really saying to us? You are the government, you make the government. You live by us, government by the people, for the people. Thank you.
We'll now hear closing statements from the proposing side. You have 1 minute.
Dearest friends, I'd like to ask the last proposer, how many people have come to the urban areas and actually developed these ideas that we say they have? There are so many people who come and they wallow in poverty simply because they are not able. They cannot even come up with the ideas that you're speaking of, dear friend. And so I would like to ask them, I would like to remind them that there's a saying that goes, life is a coward. It gives way to he who intends to succeed by motive and by action. So if we take the development to the rural areas as one of the control measures, it means that this person who is determined to succeed will succeed even while there with their great idea. And therefore, comrades, I have listened, I have heard, and I have deeply analyzed what the opponents have said. And this is what I have come to realize by the end of their submissions, that they are trying to tell us that we should bring our villages to the urban centers simply because one man went back to Makueni and told them Nairobi has opportunity. So what exactly are they telling us? Friends, pack up, come to the rural areas, live in houses where a thief's greatest weapon will be a razor blade, not a gun, simply because any resistance that you offer will bring down your house into pieces, literally. So the grass is greener where we've watered it. Take your pick. Thank you very much.
Opposing team, you have a minute for your final statements.
One of the best scholars that I believe in was Socrates, and he said, if your roof is leaking, there are 3 things you can do, depending on whether you are wise or foolish. 1, if you're wise, you'll go to the roof and mend the hole. And if you're not wise, then definitely you stay at waterfall at you. And the second thing that is mostly used by the group, you run to your neighbor's house. And the governor of the central bank in Rwanda said, instead of placing restrictions on where our people live, let's go down to them. Teach them about entrepreneurship, because what is changing the nation is not where you live, is what you do where you live. How you do it, not where you do it. And before I conclude, I would like to remind you, Esperanza just told me that Tokyo is a developed city. I don't disagree. But what are developing countries? There are countries which are on the way of being developed. There are countries which are fighting their current situation to be exactly what Tokyo is, developed. I rest my case.
Makueni, Dennis, again, you started off, but you staggered in the course of your presentation. There was no flow in the presentation. Nonetheless, also when you're sitting down, one of my comments was instill confidence in your listeners. You know, when you are confident and convinced about what you say, and you tell it to us, even if it is a lie, we shall take it as the truth, because we see the person who is talking to us is quite assured of whatever thing he's talking about. You gain momentum, you lose momentum, you gain momentum again. Ensure there is consistency in your presentation. But Kyoko is a great asset for the team again. Beautiful presentation, if I may put it that way, intelligently argued out. Joel, at some point I asked myself when you made reference to Kapanga, why the reference? But I think I came with an answer. Possibly her presence could be intimidating in a way. So what you're trying to do, you're trying to assure yourself that I'm going to get this thing and I'm up to the task. I think that is why you made reference to her. So it was not in bad faith at all. Initially, I thought it was in bad faith, but I came to understand why you did that. Nonetheless, you're also a good speaker. You realize that from the team, they are very strong speakers. And the first speaker, Dennis, I just wish that you work on your presentation, and then the 3 will form a very strong team. Also to the girls, it was a good presentation. Thank you.
Kenya High, again, you have the advantage of having Esperanza in your team, and you're lucky that you have a resident tutor, just by observing and listening to her. Evelyn Kihara, a good speaker, very good beginning. You were nervous at some point, and I admire the fact that you were able to rise above that and continue. that it did not get the better of you. When you make reference to cities, tell us which countries they belong to or which countries they are found in, because not everybody would know that Johannesburg is in South Africa, for example. Stephanie, again, a good speaker. You bring out, the challenges of having, a high urban population, and you articulate them very, very well. Esperancia, again, brilliant, awesome. Every time you come on, I'm just marveled. And I remind these guys, that's a lady speaking. But brilliant performance by the two schools.
Evelyn, that was a good submission. However, you could tell that your coherency at the beginning was a bit lacking. I actually thought, I had imagined there was someone is trying to distract you from the back and had to look back. But however, you picked it up well, and I think if you organize yourself and your thoughts very well, you will end up making the team even stronger. Washira, very good cross-examination, your style and presentation, mastery of topic, and this also cuts across to Kennedy. You're very good as well. You connect with the audience, and that was a good cross-examination as well, and mastery of topic, and a good ending as well when you came in on board. Esperantia, I was trying to look for a word to describe you, and I didn't get any, but that was excellent. It was an excellent start, an excellent wrap-up as well. Back to the boys. Dennis, good. However, your coherency of argument as well, just check it up, and you'll be up flying. Joel, one word, good. All the best to the two teams.
The judges gave Kenya High School 72.5%. Please give them a round of applause. As for Makueni High School, the judges gave you 70%. Therefore, our winners for this debate is Kenya High School.
Commendable job by both teams. We love that they both put in such effort, and the ladies took this one. But it's a game of numbers, so we might see them, both teams, in the future. From us here at the Great Debaters Show, it's thank you for watching and goodbye till next time. I am Mariam Bishar.
And I am Austin Nyambok.
The winning school will get an ICT chill-out zone with the widescreen TV, computers, webcams, and internet connection. The teacher from the winning school gets 100,000 shillings courtesy of Chase Bank. The winning students each get a tablet courtesy of Safaricom, a gift hamper from Unilever, and a gift hamper from mimi.co.ke. And together, they all win the title, The Great Debaters. May the best school win.